Hi, beauty. Welcome to Meticulous Coaching with your special host, Dominique, aka Daisy Grant, your overflow mentor. Welcome in, beauty.
Hey beauty, welcome back to the garden season. It's Daisy, or Dominique, your overflow mentor. And today I want to talk to you about something that has completely changed the way I look at business. Not only the way I look at business, but how I look at family, faith, and even the smallest decisions we make each day. I want to talk about inheritance, more importantly, inheritance systems. When we hear the word inheritance, most of us usually think about money. We think about leaving behind a house, assets, and life insurance, money. And while all of those things carry value, they do. Over the last little while, I've been realizing something. Some of the greatest inheritance I've received have absolutely nothing to do with money. They were systems, they were rhythms, they were ways of thinking, they were habits, good and bad. They were examples. They were patterns that continued producing long after the person who established them was gone. This is Latte. This is my eldest silky chicken. And then I began to look at scripture and think on scripture. And the more that I read, the more I realized something. I realized that the garden itself is an inheritance system. The garden was never random. When the Father planted the garden, he didn't simply create a beautiful scenery. He created an ecosystem. Everything had purpose. Everything worked together. Soil supported the seed, and the water nourished the plants. The trees produced fruit with seeds already placed inside them. Even before humanity expanded across the earth, the garden already knew how to reproduce itself. Think about that for a moment. Every fruit already contained the next generation. This isn't accidental, that's an inheritance system. The garden wasn't dependent on constant reinvention. It was designed around repeatable rhythms. We live in a culture that loves starting over. Today we celebrate new ideas, new strategies, and don't get me wrong, I'm one of those. New trends, new hacks, new algorithms, and while innovation has its place, sometimes we become addicted to starting instead of stewarding. We move from one thing to another because we're searching for the next breakthrough. Completely guilty. Meanwhile, the garden quietly reminds us that sustainable growth usually comes through repetition. The same watering, the same tending, the same pruning, the same rhythms. Not because they're boring, but because they're faithful. Systems can remove unnecessary struggle. One of the biggest lessons that I've been learning is this. The more healthy systems I build, the less unnecessary decisions I have to make. I don't have to reinvent how I create content every week. I don't have to rebuild my business every month. I don't have to remember every little thing. And the reason is because I've built rhythms that support me. Systems don't remove purpose, they protect it. When a garden has irrigation, the gardener is free to tend to other things. When a family has healthy rhythms, parents focus less energy managing chaos. The system doesn't replace the gardener, it supports the gardener. The greatest inheritance may not be money. Imagine leaving your child with only money. What about wisdom, healthy communication, healthy stewardship, a way of solving problems? I feel like that is more important than the material items that we leave our children. And believe me, I'm not saying this as a perfect individual. This is not something that I have mastered in its completion. However, this is something that I truly would love to work towards and am working towards. So, what about leaving a rhythm of rest, a way of caring for their bodies, a way of managing resources, and a way of honoring the Father? Those things will continue to multiply long after we're gone. Money can disappear, but healthy systems continue producing fruit, generation after generation. Even nature teaches this. One of the reasons why I love being outside in nature as often as I can be is because nature reminds me of how the Father created Earth and designed creation around repeatable systems. The seasons return, which in Canada I don't really like, but anyways, we're here. Seeds become harvests, caterpillars become butterflies, the birds gather material for their nests, trees lose their leaves and grow them again. Nothing is frantic. Nothing is trying to prove. Everything follows a repeatable rhythm. What does this mean for us? It means that we should stop asking the question, how do we become more productive? And start asking, what systems help me become a better steward? Instead of asking, how do I work harder? Ask, what rhythms allow me to flourish? Instead of asking, how do I make more money? Ask, what inheritance am I creating? Those are very different questions, and I think they lead to very different lives. One of the reasons you've heard me talking about garden season, about the garden shed, about AI, wellness, systems, and stewardship is because I finally realized they all belong together. AI isn't my source, it's a tool, and peptides aren't my source. They're also tools. The systems are not my source, they're tools. The garden shed is where I store my tools, and the garden is where I use them. The storehouse is where the harvest is preserved. But the one who gives the harvest, who gives the increase, has always been the Father. And that's what keeps everything in its proper place. Oh, so today I want to leave you with this question. What are you building today that someone else won't have to rebuild? Maybe it's a family rhythm, a healthier body. Maybe it's a business system. Maybe it's a wisdom written in a journal. Maybe it's simply becoming the first person in your family to cultivate something different. Whatever it is, don't underestimate it, because the garden reminds us that even the tiniest of seeds can create and leave such a big inheritance. Thank you so much for joining me and for spending time with me and Latte. If this conversation encouraged you, I'd love for you to share this with someone who is in the middle of building something that they want to last. Until next time, beauty, keep tending your garden. A healthy garden doesn't only produce harvest, it also produces inheritance. I love you all. Father's continued blessings. I'll see you soon. Bye.